Introduction to pedigrees. Now, I know it's not going to be so easy to read the information on here. It doesn't come out totally clear, but you should have it on your note paper in front of you, so it should be there for you to see, okay? There are little glares on the board. You can see a little glare. I've tried my best to eliminate it. I actually put a piece of paper on the board. You're going to notice in the videos that I'm trying to work around the glare the best of my ability so that you guys can get this, the information, okay? So let's begin. Human inheritance patterns. We've learned about genetics crosses. We've learned about 5 different kinds of genetics crosses. 5 different kinds. The good news for you guys is you only need to be familiar with 2 of them in order to do these family trees or pedigrees. Okay, so let's look at this pedigree here. I know it's hard to see the names because the pedigree is kind of small, but you have the names on your paper. So what they're showing to you is a line that goes sideways. These are mating partners, or you can say they're married if you want, whatever you want to say. These mating partners, they branch down and then they get lines. And this shows you how it branches down to their children. So they come down, that's their first child. It's a square. Squares are male, circles are female. Okay, so this is their first child. Their second child right here. This is married to their daughter. This person is married to their daughter. This is Nick. Nick is married to Jim and Karina's daughter, okay? Their daughter's name is Rhea. They have children. These are their 3 children down here. So these are the grandchildren of Jim and Karina, okay? Over here, they have another child named Diesel. Diesel is married, you could say, to Kim, or has a mating partner named Kim, and then they produce 2 children, all right? So this is how you read and you look at a pedigree. Okay, it's not as simple as that. You're not just going to be looking at them and telling me who's married to who. No, that's not what I want to know about these pedigrees. What I want to know is I want to know what the inheritance pattern is. Okay, and then once you know the inheritance pattern, I need to know what are the genotypes of the people. Sounds complicated, but today I'm going to introduce to you some simpler pedigrees. This one would be considered more complex. That's what you're going to get on the next day when we practice pedigrees. But this is more complex. I'm going to show you some simpler ones, a bunch of smaller ones, and we're going to analyze the smaller ones. So today, simple pedigrees, smaller ones, not a lot of generations. This one has 3 different generations of people, okay? The ones we're going to do for today, much simpler, okay? Now, on the bottom here, there's a lot of information, okay? So on your paper looks like this. I know it's hard to see with all the stuff in between. Your paper looks like this. There's a bunch of information on your paper, okay? A bunch of info. I'm going to be reading off of this information from this paper. So this paper, you want to have it nearby when I go over the samples, okay? This paper, you should have it with you when you are doing pedigrees and you're analyzing them. All the information you need is right here. Okay, this is all the information you're going to need to do these, all right? So this, have it nearby is my tip to you guys, okay? So let's show you how to do some of these pedigrees. Okay, so here we go. All right, now, this is on, it's hard to see the ones on the bottom. I'm going to slide it up in a second and show it to you in a second and show you what I mean by that. I just can't get all the information on the screen. So this is a tough lecture to do without all the board space we typically would have in a classroom. Normally, I would have a bunch of stuff written on the boards, and then we would refer to this picture, and then we would have all that information there. But we don't have that, okay? So I want to go through these bullets with you. They're very important, okay? So listen to the rules. You need to know these rules. You need to have them in your head. The 2 kinds of genetics crosses you need to understand are sex-linked and typical dominant versus recessive, okay? A capital covering up a recessive gene, okay? So there's names for them, all right? Sex-linked is called sex-linked, and sex-linked is always recessive. That's easy, okay? The next kind, if it's not sex-linked, the name is called autosomal. Autosomal simply means not sex-linked. So X's and Y's are not used for autosomal. Autosomal ones are just dominant letters covering up recessive letters. Okay, that's all they are. Dominants covering up recessives. That's what autosomal is. Now, you need to know 3 kinds of inheritance patterns. Sex-linked automatically makes it recessive. That's the first kind. The second kind, not sex-linked or autosomal, same thing. Autosomal means not sex-linked. Autosomal and recessive is number 2, okay? And number 3 is autosomal and dominant. Well, what do I mean by all that? I'm telling you autosomal dominant, autosomal recessive. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at these pedigrees over here. This is a simple one. Mom, circle, dad, in this case square, they produce one child. So this child has a characteristic. This is their son. He has a characteristic. Mom has the characteristic. I want to know, was this characteristic passed from mom to son in a sex-linked manner? Okay, that's what you want to know. You need to look at sex-linked first. On every pedigree that you analyze, you have to prove that it is not sex-linked. If you cannot prove that it is not sex-linked, then guess what? Then the pedigree is sex-linked. So the goal is to disprove number 1, and number 1 is sex-linked. You have to disprove number 1 every time. So you start with sex-linked no matter what, every time. And your goal is to prove that this item was passed down in a not sex-linked manner. If you can prove it's not sex-linked, then you move forward, okay? So how do you do that? Sounds complicated. I'll show you in a second. And this one here, dad, mom, neither one of them has the characteristic, and then a son shows up with it, okay? Over here, dad has it, mom doesn't have it, and a daughter has it over here, okay? So this characteristic was passed from dad to daughter. The question is it sex-linked? We're going to talk about that in a second. And you'll notice it says sex-linked right here. So all of these, technically, they are sex-linked. Finally, this last one here. Dad has it, mom has it, all their kids have it. Okay? So these 4 pedigrees on the top, they're simple. They're just parents and their children. It's just 2 generations. Okay? Parents and their children. So what you need to do is every pedigree you look at, you first check if the pedigree is sex-linked and recessive every time. You have to check it, okay? How do you check it? You have some bullets here, and they give you some information, okay? They're hard to watch they're hard to read on the video, I know, but you can read them on your paper. I'm going to go over each one of those. Let's talk about the first bullet. If a female has the trait, then all of her sons must have the trait. That's a rule. So if something is sex-linked, mom has it, her boys will automatically have it. They have to have it. If mom has it and her boys don't have it, then it is not sex-linked. So let me show you what I mean by that. Look, mom has it, her boy has it. Okay? Over here, mom has it, all of her boys have it. Okay? This mom here, she doesn't have it. Okay? And her boy has it. All right? That doesn't mean it's false. This rule doesn't apply to this pedigree here. If it doesn't apply to the pedigree, then you did not prove it wrong. Okay? To prove it incorrect, you have to prove these statements incorrect. Okay? So the first one, if a female has a trait, then all of her sons must have the trait. Okay? So we haven't proved any of these wrong. Okay? The next one, all right? If a female has the trait, then her dad must have the trait. So look here. We don't have a female child, so it doesn't apply, but that doesn't make it false, okay? We have a female here. She doesn't have it, so it doesn't apply to the second statement. That's okay. It doesn't make it false. Look at this. A female has it. Her dad has it. Okay, so that's true. That's sex-linked, huh? Over here, a female has it, and her dad has it. Okay, so far, that second statement, okay, you're using it to try to prove it wrong. Third statement, and your final statement to prove it right or wrong says, if mom and dad both have it, then all of their children must also have it. Okay, those are the 3 statements that you need to do right here. 1, 2, and 3. If you can prove a pedigree wrong, using those statements, then you know you don't have sex-linked, okay? If you cannot prove the pedigree wrong with those statements, you can't prove it to not be sex-linked, then guess what? If you can't prove it to not be sex-linked, then guess what you have? Your pedigree is sex-linked, okay? So then let me show you what you would do next. I'm going to slide the paper up so you can see some not sex-linked pedigrees, and we'll compare them. Okay, so here's some not sex-linked pedigrees, all right? I'm going to go back. I know you can't see the rules on the paper, but I'm going to go through the rules and show you how these ones are proved wrong, okay? Rule number one, okay? Rule number one, if a mother has it, if a female has it, then her sons, all of them must have the characteristic. Look here, female has it, one son has it, one son does not have it. This is not sex-linked. Proved it wrong. So guess what? Since you proved it wrong, then you move to number two and try to prove number two wrong. Okay? So you don't move to number two until you've proved number one, sex-linked inaccurate. So if we, right away, mom has it, all of her sons must have it. Well, that's not true. So we know this pedigree, it's not sex-linked. So now we move on to the second kind. Okay? Over here, another rule that you just saw. The rule said, if a female has it, then her dad must have it. Well, look, she has it. Her dad does not have it. Therefore, this one is not sex-linked. Not sex-linked right here. Okay? Finally, over here, the third rule for sex-linked is, if both mom and dad have it, all of their kids must have it. And look, they have a daughter that doesn't have it. Not sex-linked, not sex-linked, not sex-linked. That is how you prove something is not sex-linked. These are the three examples. If a female has it, all of her sons must have it. Not sex-linked. If a female has it, her dad must have it. Not sex-linked. If mom and dad both have it, all their kids must have it. Not sex-linked. Okay? These ones are sex-linked. These ones are not sex-linked, okay? The next step that you have to do, okay? So let's now look at the top ones. We know that they are sex-linked. So the next step says, it's hard to see, it'll say use labels to label the genotypes. You need to know their genes. What genes do they have? Now, when you use sex-linked, X's and Y's, you have to show the X's and the Y's along with the A's that go with them, or the letter that goes with them, okay? So how do you label the genotypes? Well, I give you labels here, okay? And you take those labels and you copy them over to your pedigree. So let's start over here. A male that is not shaded in is right there. So this is what a male who is not shaded in should look like, okay? A female that is shaded in looks like that. That's what she looks like. Okay? So right now, I have genotypes of mom and dad. A male that is shaded in, right there. Those are the genotypes. That's how you label them. Where did the Y come from? Mom does not have a Y. That Y came from dad. Mom gave the small a. Right there. Okay, that's how you attack it. That's how you do these. Okay, that's how you do these problems. Let's do this one right here for you. Dad not shaded in, right there. Female not shaded in. Now you'll notice a line. I'm putting a line there. That line is there so that you got to go in after the fact and see if you could figure it out. Okay, so there's a line there. That line means, let's see if we can figure out afterwards, okay? A male that is shaded in is this. Lowercase a with a Y. A female not shaded in, down here. This one's X capital A, X blank. Okay, X capital A, X blank. All right, so now we have some blanks. We got to see if we can figure out what those blanks are. They either are capital A, they're either lowercase a, or we leave them blank because it could be either one. We're not sure. So if it could be a capital A or a lowercase a, you don't guess. You leave it blank because you're not sure what it is. So let's look at them. Let's first see if we can figure out this person here, this female. The Y for their son, Y came from dad. Dad could only give a Y to his son. So this X with the small a had to come from mom. So that small a had to come from mom. That goes right there, small a. Okay. Over here, the X with the capital A, the first X with the capital A, we'll just say that came from dad because dad only has an X with the capital A. Mom, on the other hand, has a capital A and a lowercase a. She has both. We don't know exactly what that other letter is, so we're going to leave it blank because it could be a capital A, it could be a lowercase a. So the correct answer would be to leave it blank, just like that. Okay. This one here, we know it's a small a. How do we know that? The Y came from dad. This small a came from mom over there. Okay. Then we go to this one here, right? A male that is shaded in. X, small a, Y. A female not shaded in. X, capital A, X, blank. You come back and figure it out. A male down here who's not shaded in. X, capital A, Y. Okay. And by the way, I'm sorry if it's hard to see. There's a glare in this area. This is X, capital A, Y, in case you're wondering. And over here, a female that has it is X, small a, X, small a. All right. So now, this is a capital A in case it's hard to see. All right. Now, let's look at this female here. X, small a, X, small a. Dad gave an X with a small a. That means mom has to have a small a. Whoops. That means mom has to have a small a to give her child. Okay. So there's a small a right there also. All right. So far, we've had one blank so far. This one right here. All right. Finally, the third kind. These kinds are kind of easy. Boy has it. Male has it. X, small a, Y. Female has it. X, small a, X, small a. All right. I'm just copying that information onto the board. Male that has it. X, small a, Y. Girl that has it. X, small a, X, small a. And male. X, small a, Y. They're all set up here. So out of these 4 examples, only one of them had a blank that you could not figure out. Sometimes you have blanks, sometimes you don't have any. Okay, let me show you down here, for example, why this one is not sex linked. Okay, here's why. That's a boy right there. That boy right there doesn't have it. He has an X, capital A, Y. This mom, she has only X's with small a's. She must pass down the small a, but he got a capital A. So this is impossible to happen. You cannot have that happen. That cannot happen. So this is why this is not sex linked. And if you did it to this one and this one, you'll realize it's impossible. It can't happen, which is why you'll see that they are not sex linked. Right? Let me erase this. Now let's go to the second kind. We're going to have to hang up the paper for the glare. Work our way around the glare. Here we go. Now let's go to problem number 2. Okay? Okay. Now, when you get to the second one, you only go to number 2. You only go to number 2 if you proved number 1 wrong. If you cannot prove number 1 wrong, then or you can't prove number one is not sex-linked, excuse me, if you can't prove it to be not sex-linked, you do not move on to number two. You do not move on to number three. If you can't prove your pedigree to not be sex-linked, then you have sex-linked, okay? So let's look at this first one right here, okay? Let's look at this first one right here, all right? Look at this one right here. Oh, mom and dad both have it, and all of their kids have it. Well, that is our one and only rule that we have for this number two type. Number two is autosomal, meaning not sex-linked, and it is a recessive characteristic. So we're saying that everybody shaded is totally recessive, small a, small a. If they're shaded, they're totally recessive. They're small a and small a, okay? Male or female. A totally shaded in male or female is small a, small a. That's what we're saying. So all these people shaded in, we're saying they're small a, okay? Over here, we're saying this person here, we're saying they're totally recessive. We're saying that they are small a, okay? That's what we're saying. Now, let's do this one. The labels are right here. They're right here, okay? The labels are right there. Now, let's go through them. I'm going to slide it up, and we're going to start labeling them, and we're going to go through them together, okay? All right. Do these together. Okay, let's do these together. Now, so here's how this works. Let's go through them, all right? And then we're going to show you how to label them, all right? And then I'm going to go through them and show you why they are not autosomal recessive. For example, we'll do this. We're going to prove this one wrong, okay? First off, you always start with sex-linked, okay? You always start with sex-linked first. You check sex-linked first, all right? And then if it's not sex-linked, then you move on to number two. Two is autosomal recessive. I keep repeating myself because this is the important factor. You have to prove sex-linked isn't in play in order to go on to autosomal and recessive. Okay, so we didn't prove. So if you think it's autosomal recessive, you start labeling it. Okay, let's label it. Everybody shaded in as a small a. That works. Small a's everywhere. Okay, over here. Okay, over here. Small a. Small a, but we have a bunch of unshaded people. Unshaded people are a capital and a blank. Capital and a blank. Capital and a blank. So what we are saying is this characteristic, it's going from parents to offspring in a recessive way, and it is not sex-linked. It is autosomal. That's what we are saying. Notice how there's no X's and Y's on here. No X's and Y's if it's not sex-linked, okay? So we know that this person here has two small little a's, okay? Where did they come from? Your DNA comes from mom and dad. So one of them came from that parent, and the other one came from that parent, right there, all right? Now we have a blank still. Well, look, both parents could pass down a uppercase A. Both parents could pass down a lowercase a. We don't know if this is a lowercase a or a capital A. We're not sure. So you leave it blank. Okay, that is left blank. All right. Let me show you why this one down here is not autosomal and recessive. The rule for autosomal recessive is if mom and dad both have it, all their kids must have it. So mom and dad have it and all their kids don't have it. Not autosomal recessive. Look over here. Mom and dad both have it, and not all of their kids have it. Not autosomal and recessive. Okay, so these ones are not autosomal recessive. And by the way, let's even check them right now. Okay, they're not sex-linked either. Let me go through sex-linked to prove to you this is not sex-linked. The rule for sex-linked. Okay, if mom has it, all of her boys will have it. It's not sex-linked. The rule for then you go to number two. Number two is autosomal and recessive. The rule, and that's what we're working on right now. The rule for autosomal and recessive is if mom and dad have it, all their kids are going to have it. That's not number two either. So this one, it's not number one, It's not number 2. So what are you left with? Your only and final choice is number 3. Okay? Over here, what's the rule? If mom has it, her boys will have it. Okay, so that's good. Looks like sex linked so far. Okay, but there's another sex linked rule. If mom and dad both have it, all their kids have it. So that's not true. So that's not sex linked. That same rule applies to this one for number 2, autosomal and recessive. Autosomal recessive, if mom and dad have it, all their kids must have it. So it's not number 2 either. So this one is number 3. This one is number 3. Okay? That's how you, and by the way, don't forget, you got to go back and try to label those blanks. Don't forget to try to do that, because sometimes you can figure them out for certain, sometimes you cannot. All right? So now let's do the third type, third and final type. Okay? Now, the nice thing about the third one, is that if you prove 1 wrong and you prove 2 wrong, you're only left with number 3. It has to be number 3. You don't even need to go through any rules for number 3. Why? You already proved it right, or you already proved them wrong for 1 and 2. You don't need to prove 3 right or wrong, because you're only left with number 3. Number 3 says a characteristic is dominant. You got a capital. So if you're shaded in, you have a capital letter. No X's and Y's. This is not sex linked. All right. So for number 3, once you figure it out, if it's not 1, not 2, then number 3, just start labeling. Okay. So everyone shaded in has a capital A and a blank. Everyone not shaded in gets 2 lowercase a's. Everyone not shaded in, 2 lowercase a's. And by the way, this shows you, this branching here shows you twins. These are identical twins, in case you're wondering. That branch is twins. Okay, so now let's go see if we can figure out the blanks. So mom and dad both have blanks. Their children all have lowercase a's. One came from dad, one came from mom. That's how you label it. Over here, this daughter, she has lowercase a's. One came from mom, one came from dad. But look right here, this son of theirs has a blank. That blank could be capital A, that blank could be lowercase a. It could be either one. We don't know for certain, so you're going to leave that one blank. You do not know their exact genotype. Okay, so let's go through them again. When you get a pedigree, you start with number 1. You got to prove sex-linked incorrect. How do you do that? You read your bullets. Bullet number 1. If a female has it, all of her sons will have it. We just proved it wrong right there. Then you go to number 2 pedigree. You go to number 2, autosomal recessive. If mom and dad have it, all their kids will have it. You just proved it wrong right there. This one is not number 1. It's not number 2. You're left with number 3. That's your only option. Okay. Over here, let's go through the rules again. Remember, you start with sex linked every time. You go to sex linked in the beginning. Sex linked. The first rule: if a woman has it, female has it, all of her boys will have it. Okay, that works so far. That's good. The next rule: if a female has it, then her dad has it. She has it, but we don't know what her dad looks like, so we haven't proved it wrong. Just because it doesn't apply does not prove it wrong, okay? Finally, the third rule is if mom and dad both have it, all their kids will have it, not sex-linked, okay? Then you go to number 2. There's only one rule for the second type, autosomal recessive. That rule is if mom and dad both have it, all their kids will have it. That's not autosomal recessive. This is not number 2 either. This one, if mom and dad have it, all their kids will have it. That's not number 2. You just proved number 2 wrong. So if it's not number 1, it's not number 2, then you begin labeling with number 3. That is how you do these pedigrees. Good luck. Let me know if you need any help.